In this lead generation guide, you're going to learn 5 actual lead generation strategies to actually generate leads online. Hey, I'm Jason, and if you're new here, go ahead and hit that subscribe button for the latest in traffic and conversion strategies to help grow your business online. Now, as we dive into these 5, there are 2 really big keys to success when it comes to lead generation. And of course, the first one is self-explanatory, and that is just understanding who your ideal customer actually is. So I will link up in the cards and the description to a video that takes a really deep dive on how to come up with your ideal customer profile so you know exactly who you're trying to connect with when you're going through these techniques. Now, the second big key to success is the first 4 deal with different ways to actually grab the attention of your ideal customer and of course drive traffic. And the key to success here is to just choose one of them. So whether you're going the paid route, you're looking at content marketing, networking, or the 4th one, direct outreach, you want to choose one to focus on. And so first up, we have paid. And for our definitions here, this is going to be anyone who comes to your website or funnel from a paid ad. Now, when it comes to paid ads, there's lots of different platforms out there and lots of different ad types. But when it comes to lead generation, especially if you're doing this for the first time, there are really only 3 sources that I recommend looking at. The first one, of course, is going to be Google. The second one is going to be YouTube. And number 3, in a distant third place, is going to be Facebook. And we'll get to how much you actually need for each one of those platforms to be successful. And whatever platform you choose, they're all going to drive traffic to a landing page or a specific page on your site where you're collecting contact information. Now, if you don't already have a lead generation funnel set up, I will link up in the cards and the description to a really deep dive video that goes through exactly how to set up a fully functional B2B sales funnel that follows the format of the diagram that you're looking at right now. So the big advantage of going the paid traffic route is that you can start to see results almost instantaneously within a few weeks, as opposed to some of these other ones that might take a few months, if not a year or more. Now, of course, the downside is going to be the cost, but let's go ahead and go through the best one of these to choose when you're just getting started. Now, I'm a huge fan of Google PPC search ads. So these are the ads that show up when someone types in a search into Google. The reason that these are so powerful compared to all the other options you have out there is this allows you to target people who are specifically looking for your product or service. A lot of the other advertising platforms out there, just like Pinterest or Instagram or Facebook, you are creating pattern interrupts and trying to grab attention of people as they're scrolling through their feed. Google search ads is one of the few places that you can actually specifically pay when you know someone is looking for your product or service. And if you have a lot of website traffic already, then something like Google display ads remarketing ads is actually going to be very helpful as well. So I will link up in the cards and the description to a really deep dive video on how to set up your first search campaign to generate leads. Now, the second traffic source I recommend inside of here for paid is going to be YouTube. Now, making videos like this one, it does take a lot of work, and no one really ever gets used to just sitting in an empty room talking in front of a camera. But if you're willing to get over that hurdle, YouTube pay-per-click costs are really low. You can create something called in-stream ads. Those are the ads that show up in front of other videos. Then someone can skip after 5 seconds. But the big advantage of using those is you only pay if someone watches 30 seconds of your video. So you can actually get a tremendous amount of reach out of YouTube ads with just a simple 90 to 2-minute video. Again, link in the cards in the description to a full-blown YouTube ads tutorial if you want to learn more on how you can use that for your business. Discovery ads are also a great way to go. Now let's talk about costs, because when it comes to paid advertising to generate leads online, there is a downside versus some of the other ones we're going to talk about. And that, of course, is how much is this actually going to cost? So here are realistic, no fluff, real world numbers on how much you actually need to spend in order to start seeing results on each one of these platforms. When it comes to YouTube, you actually only need $500 a month in order to start seeing results. And that's simply because you're going to be paying anywhere from 10 to 30 cents per view, so you get a lot of views and a lot of data very quickly. When it comes to Google search ads, I'm not talking about any type of other ads here. Google search ads, you need at least $1,500 a month, and you're probably going to run ads for at least 3 months before you start seeing results. So if the prospect of spending $4,500 on ads before you actually start to see results is something that your business cannot handle or just unrealistic, depending upon wherever you are in your growth cycle, then go ahead and skip Google ads for now. And Facebook Facebook is going to cost upwards of $2,000 a month. And we've just found that even though Facebook can deliver outstanding results, it takes a really, really long time to figure out ad copy, figure out ad messaging. There's just so many more variables when it comes to Facebook advertising versus YouTube, which is cheaper. So you have a lot more wiggle room in terms of possibly having a bad ad on your hand. It can still actually wind up performing. And of course, no matter which paid traffic avenue you pursue, I highly recommend driving that traffic to a landing page where the primary call to action is to book a discovery or strategy call with you. And that's where you can begin your sales process. Now, the next one on our list, technique number 2 here, is going to be content marketing. Now, I'm obviously a huge fan of content marketing, as you can see from this channel. And just like paid ads, all of your content can drive traffic to your landing page or your website where you're collecting contact information to get on that oh so important strategy or discovery call. So that's why the diagram you're looking at now looks virtually the same as the first one. We're just changing out where the traffic is coming from. And it's important to note before we dive into the 2 best platforms to use for content marketing that not all content is created equal. So for our definition purposes here, just like we defined what paid advertising was, we'll define what content marketing is. So content marketing is the creation of content that engages prospects, educates potential customers, positions you as a trusted authority, and seeds the value of your paid offers. And we'll actually get into 3 different types of content pieces you can pretty much rotate until the end of time to make sure that you're always creating a piece of content that fits this definition, because creating content for the sake of content isn't really actually going to drive more leads or more sales. Now, when it comes to the platforms, there are of course a lot out there, but you want to target a platform that has a search box. And so this essentially gives you Google, which is blog post writing, and YouTube, which is videos. Now, podcasts is also a very effective way, but I'd recommend going with YouTube or blog posts. Blogging is not dead. You can still be successful making a blog, especially when you use one of these 3 types of content. So I recommend making how-to tutorials, reviews, and decision guides. So a how-to tutorial is just going to be exactly how it sounds. A step-by-step process or roadmap taking someone from point A to point B. As a meta example here, when I link up in the cards in the description to a Google Ads video, that's an example of a how-to tutorial. Now, we could also do reviews where you are looking at different products or services in your niche or industry. Of course, you want to make sure that you never review something that's a direct competitor to yours, but the whole purpose here is you're building yourself and setting yourself up as a helpful authority and resource. And of course, the final one where you help people decide between going down path 1 or path 2. So I'll link up in the cards in the description to a full-blown content marketing deep dive video that goes into exactly how to create each one of these pieces of content. Now, irrespective of what platform you choose or what you do with content, there is one step that you can never ever ignore, and that is having a clear call to action with your content. A lot of content marketers just seem to be really scared of asking people for their contact information or asking people to book a call with them. And if you don't have that call to action inside of your content, then there's no point in making the content in the first place. So there are 3 main calls to action that you can have in your content, although I recommend sticking with the second CTA on this list, which is of course booking a strategy call. Again, link in the cards in the description to that full-blown B2B lead generation funnel. So the first call to action, of course, we have here is for a lead magnet. And so they'll enter their contact information and you'll give them a free PDF report or template or a short video training. The second call to action, which is the one I recommend having, is of course just booking a strategy call with you. You can always add that lead magnet on later. There's really nothing that's going to hurt you from just offering your time up front, and you're going to get a lot more people on the phone a lot quicker. And the third call to action, which is a simple one, where you just ask people to check out more content so they could take a deeper dive. As an example, several times during this video, I've talked about cards in the description to other videos, and those other videos have one of the other 2 calls to action. So you can see how content can actually start building on each other, but you need content that has one of the first 2 calls to One of the first two calls to action in order for your content to actually be successful and drive leads. And before we move on to technique number 3, just keep in mind that content's going to take anywhere from 6 months to a year to start to produce results. Of course, the benefit, you don't have to spend $5K right out of the gate like you do with paid ads in order to get things rolling and get things to start working. Now, technique number 3 here is going to be networking. This is going to be very budget friendly and very, very time intensive. So when we are talking about networking, we're not talking about going to meetups or trade shows or conferences, if those are even allowed where you are. We're talking about virtual networking here, finding groups of your ideal customers, your ideal prospects online, joining those groups and providing value. So there is a very, very thin, fine line you have to walk when you're going down this route between promoting yourself and just being present, top of mind. And the places you can go to be present and top of mind would be Facebook groups, LinkedIn professional groups, and of course, Quora. Now, Quora is a little different where you're just answering a bunch of questions. And so you can actually include links to your website, your content, or just your book a strategy call with me page inside of your Quora answers. And that's okay to do on that platform. You don't want to do that inside Facebook groups or inside LinkedIn groups. Now, going back to our funnel diagram here, again, link in the cards in the description to everything you need to know about building out your B2B funnel. You actually don't need a landing page here because what your goal is with these groups is to go inside those groups, engage with people, provide value to them, and then start the sales conversations in direct messages. You never, ever want to promote yourself inside of these groups. That's the fastest way to get kicked out. So let's say, as an example, I'm a marketer for dentists. So what I would do is I'd go to LinkedIn and Facebook and try to find groups that are full of dentists and then provide value in whatever types of questions and anything related to marketing or sales or growing their business. I'll try and actually provide some valuable information or share articles and resources. Now, whenever I share those articles or share those resources, they would always have to be from a source that was not me. Even if I spent 10 hours creating this awesome video specifically for dentists on how to book more retainer clients or something to that effect. That's actually orthodontia. I'm getting confused here. So beside my terrible example, the whole point is you want to be seen as a valuable resource in that particular group, and people will naturally click on your little face icon, they'll go to your profile, they'll see what you do, and they will reach out to you via direct message. And sometimes you'll be able to reach out direct message to other people. And if you ever instigate it, it always has to start off with you delivering even more value to them, not saying, hey, you know what, we've been talking for a while, I think we should jump on the phone. You always need to make sure that there's been some value buildup and some reciprocity that's there in order for you to actually have that call to action to book that strategy call in the direct message, not inside of any public group. So now let's go ahead and talk about one where you can have a call to action immediately when you make contact, and that is going to be direct outreach. And so this is essentially cold email, where you are sending out emails to your ideal customers and you're personalizing them because that's very important. And the call to action is to book a strategy call with you. Now, I am by no means an expert in this field. This is not one of the techniques that we use with ourselves or any of our clients. So I recommend you check out the Alex Berman channel. He has a wealth of knowledge when it comes to sending out cold emails. So make sure you check out his channel if this seems like a route that you want to take, because there are a lot of nuances. You can't just blast out a bunch of emails and think that it's actually going to work. You do need to customize those emails. And of course, there's different ways to find them, like using LinkedIn Sales Navigator and some other tools out there. So I highly recommend you check out that channel if you want to learn more about sending effective cold emails. Now, that does it for the 4 lead generation techniques when it comes to actually attracting people. So now let's talk about the final one, number 5. I'm saying the final one, number 5 here, and that is going to be the oh so important discovery or strategy call. Doesn't really matter what you call it, but this is your sales call. This is where you finally got a lead or prospect, you have them on the phone, and now it's time to better understand their problems and hopefully prescribe a solution that's in line with whatever your product or service actually is. And with the exception section of the networking method where you're going back and forth in a direct message to book a strategy call or a discovery call, I recommend using something like Calendly or Book Like a Boss to completely automate this process. You can always also use something like Google Forms to collect some information so you're really prepared for the call and to help pre-screen some people. So again, link in the cards in the description to that full-blown B2B funnel guide where we actually walk through exactly how to set up those pages. Now, all you need to do on this call is 3 simple things, right? How we're always breaking down sales as if it's really easy, but actually it's just time and practice that's really going to make this effective for you. So you need to lead, listen, and learn. Lead the direction of the call, listen so you can prescribe, and learn to empathize with their situation. And so here's just a very oversimplified basic call script. We start off the first 5 minutes setting up the agenda, a little bit of small talk, a little bit of small talk. Then we go into the evaluate phase where we're listening. This is the majority of the call. This is a good 80%, 70 to 80% of the call. I'm going backwards. 70 to 80% of the call where you are simply listening to all of their struggles, all of their problems, and you're taking copious notes. And then at the end of that, you can move into the prescribe phase, but we always ask permission. We say, hey, you know what, you talked about XYZ and you're looking to achieve ABC, and I think we have something that can help you achieve A and B. I'm not quite sure about C yet. We'd have to take a deeper dive. Are you interested? And then the prospect has to say yes or no. So if the prospect says no, well, then you don't go into prescribe, you don't go into the close because they're not interested in a solution. They just wanted someone to listen to all their problems. And you say, okay, well, is there any questions I could ask for you? And then the call ends, right? And that's totally normal. Or they'll say yes, and then you go on to the prescribe phase where you talk about how you believe you can be helpful to them. And then, of course, they start asking questions, and there's a lot of back and forth. And the close phase doesn't start until the prospect, the lead, asks how much the price is. And so this was like one of the counterintuitive things I've learned, and that is you actually don't actually bring up the price. There's a tremendous amount of sales knowledge in books by Brian Tracy, so I highly recommend you check out some of those books. You definitely don't need some high-ticket closer course or anything like that. The sales books that are out there will give you more than enough to actually start getting on these calls. It's always nerve-wracking. We all go through it. I still get nervous when I have to do them every once in a while. It's just part of lead generation and, of course, getting new business, right? And so once the price is brought up and asked, that's where you move into the final part, the close phase, and that's where you're just handling a bunch of objections. So thank you so much for watching. Sincerely hope you have some ideas on how to generate leads for your specific business. Comment below with any of your lead generation questions, and make sure you check out that really deep dive video where we go every step needed to set up a fully functioning automated B2B sales funnel. So hit that like button, subscribe for more deep dive traffic videos just like this one. And until the next, keep building the business you love.